Hello and welcome to my review on the brand new 2024 20-foot Santa and Mrs. Claus inflatable from Gemmy. This is an at-home exclusive sold online and at select locations, retailing for $349.99. Now, several weeks ago, I uploaded a video on one of Gemmy's tallest inflatables to date, which is the new 25-foot snowman, something this happens to sell right alongside. At Home wants everyone to know they're the store to come to if looking for an over-the-top inflatable, and the one before us is exactly that. What is two gargantuan inflatables put together has numerous features I'm excited to explore, such as 8 LED C7s, a redesigned 20-foot Santa, and the first 20-foot Mrs. Claus. There's plenty to speak to about both their appearances, of which I'll save for later in the review, so let's then take a moment and discuss the box itself. We knew it was going to be big, but for those of you who are perhaps getting tight on space when it comes to storing, the dimensions could be beneficial. At 22 inches in depth by another 22 inches wide, while standing 14.5 inches tall, its configuration is identical to that of the 25-foot snowman's. As we make our way to the back, we'll find the always intriguing and often baffling human comparison, as well as the 2024 Gemmy Industries core. It's time to see what our latest behemoth has to offer as we unbox the all-new 20-foot tall Santa and Mrs. Claus. Equipped with the YEF 125, I've given up hope that At Home will ever give their 20-foot designs anything more powerful than that. Every supergiant they've carried all have the exact same fan as well, so honestly, this is to be expected. When it comes to these truly monstrous Gemmy inflatables, the fabric is also of great interest as they seem to be hit or miss with it. In this particular scenario, we have a thicker material on the bottom, just underneath the boots, while the remaining fabric is their standard polyester. Okay, getting into what you're provided with as far as tie downs and anchors, we'll begin with the 4 large plastic stakes paired with every Colossal Airblown these days. Likewise, we also have 4 heavy duty ropes, then 6 giant spiral stakes, and finally 4 metal base stakes. Now, I usually advise not to use these and instead go with some sort of side staple, and today is no different other than the fact I've created a small list of options for you all to check out. I receive a lot of inquiries about what I use for this part of the setup, and I found these options to be best. As for the giant spiral stake, if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know I'm not a huge fan of these either, although their functionality is nowhere near as bad as the metal base stake, yet still I've supplemented them with more of the large plastic ones, as I found they're a bit more dependable and easier to get in and out of the ground. I'll show you the exact locations of where this is all anchored momentarily, but for now let's get it plugged in and see this towering couple in action. Taking right around 6 minutes to inflate, that's fairly impressive as it averages 3 minutes per figure, which is a short amount of time when compared to 20-footers like the Penguin that has a YEF 60 and takes 10 minutes to stand, so overall I'm impressed by the time we're dealing with here. With that being said, I was definitely surprised to learn that it really doesn't hold air as tightly as it should. I'd even go as far as to say it's one of the weakest inflating Colossals I've reviewed in a while, and is rather disappointing. I searched all over yet haven't found any loose seams or anything that would cause it to leak air. It's a massive inflatable, so it is possible I missed something, but it could also just be the result of attaching a 20-footer onto what is another 20-footer. This brings me to a characteristic I'm sure a lot of you are curious about, as the images don't make it abundantly clear, and that is where in fact Mrs. Claus receives air, since it is Santa who possesses the fan underneath. I'm here to tell you she's connected at the base as well as the waist, though neither are huge openings once you look inside. Because we're on the topic of these particular openings, I will tell you that when I initially set this up, I realized I had a few C7s tangled together, which I knew I needed to take care of right away, as that's a problem that usually doesn't fix itself naturally. So I decided to send my sister in, who has some, let's just say, internal inflatable experience under her belt already, to remedy the issue. It's rare for C7s to get knotted up inside, but can be common for special giants like these from Gemmy, so keep that in mind as you may run into that with yours, and may not be as fortunate as me in having the right sized helper. Shifting gears to discuss some of the visual components before getting back to our need to knows, I think it's safe to say Mrs. Claus is the standout between the two, based off all the detailing she's been given, as well as there being several 20-foot Santas released prior to this, but of course I will be addressing both thoroughly. Beginning with her, I believe the most notable detail would be her apron. There's a lot going on when you look close, such as a holly leaf pattern lining the outside, a prominent Merry Christmas message with stars above, and lastly she has a nice pair of readers on and some vibrant red lips. Moving on to Santa, the first thing most will notice is he has different colored gloves. I have to say I am a fan of them and think the navy is a bit better than the green, though I'd prefer it if both pairs matched, yet understand Gemmy using them to give each more of an identity, though other than that I'd say their appearances are spot on. Now I'm a firm believer when it comes to any inflatable, the eyes can really make or break the design, and while I don't love these eyes and think they're a little on the cutesy side, they at least match one another and have a soft touch to them that suits, especially Mrs. Claus. To tackle the elements that aren't super interesting but are going to be worth knowing, these would include the locations of the bottom anchors, as well as the zippers. Each 20-footer is evenly split with 3 tether loops at the base, and there are 2 zippers on Santa, while just 1 on Mrs. Claus. Before sounding off, I feel obligated to tell you I've chosen not to utilize the inner tether attachments, because not only are they in an awkward spot, but they don't do much good for the inflatable. I recommend doubling up the outer loops like a typical setup, as it just works a whole lot better in getting this adjusted how you want. And now I'll conclude my review on the new for 2024, Colossal Santa and Mrs. Claus inflatable. Another enormous statement from Gemmy and At Home. At $349.99, I think it is priced fairly, as it does match the Snowman family, which this was heavily inspired by. I can't say that it's going to be exactly easy to acquire if you're watching this video on day 1, and it's only going to get more difficult from here, as not only did it only come to select at-home locations, they are now selling out quick. So I can for sure recommend it. I think it's an incredible piece, and if you can get your hands on one, you're going to be a happy customer as long as you didn't pay too much for it. Anyways guys, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, I'll see you later. Peace out, bye.